In 2007, a store associate at EB Games inside Hollywood Video, Dear God I'm Old, convinced me to try The Darkness. I was hesitant to buy it, but he was so sure I would enjoy the game that he offered a full refund plus $20 of his own money if I didn't. Today I'm reviewing that same copy of the game that I got all the way back then, and after achieving 100% completion and explaining why you should also experience this incredible game. The Darkness is a mob thriller combined with an eldritch horror where you play as 21-year-old hitman Jackie Estacada. The narrative doesn't pull any punches right from the start. After a botched job with Jackie dealing with corrupt cops in a high-speed chase and learning his Uncle Parley, leader of the Fanchetti family, has put a hit on him for challenging his authority on how he runs his mafia, Jackie isn't exactly winning any type of morality awards. Things go from bad to worse when an elder god called the Darkness manifests inside Jackie, granted him unholy powers that he'll use to destroy everything in his way. Jackie isn't an anti-hero. He is a genuine monster that operates under a personal code. He'll kill someone, collect on the job, and go out to lunch without any issue. Throughout the game, you'll see this in full effect, such as him helping a musician get his harmonica back by killing the person and all his friends who took it, or kicking a woman out of her apartment after getting her keys back a few hours beforehand because she hasn't paid rent. You can choose to take part in these side activities or not, but the game strongly encourages that you do it. The supporting cast mirrors the dark mob thriller. People have names combined with adjectives such as Jimmy the Great, Petey Pajamas, and so on, but the most important person to Jackie is Jenny. Childhood friend to Jackie in the orphanage after his parents died, and current girlfriend Jenny serves as Jackie's only reason for living. Full of innocence, she believes Jackie to be a good person, and Jackie attempts to keep her from seeing his true self. Even if Jackie tells her the truth in an optional choice, she refuses to believe he isn't a good person, and despite Jenny knowing other members of the Franchetti family, they all keep the truth from her. The entire date scene between the two highlights how to authentically create a believable romantic bond between characters in such a short time. Jenny celebrates Jackie's 21st birthday with a basic cake and watching To Kill a Mockingbird in her cheap one-bedroom apartment. You can watch the entire movie since it's public domain, but most importantly, it highlights how much they love each other. This is something that media even today have trouble conveying in such a genuine way, and usually either involve rushing into a romance, they have little chemistry, or showcase no real bond between the characters. Jackie, even before we meet Jenny, talks her up as the only good thing in his life, as the kind person he doesn't deserve, and when we finally meet her, she's exactly that. She's full of life, kind-hearted, and the direct opposite of Jackie, who we just saw murder a bunch of people in quick executions. But Jackie's life eventually catches up to him, with Jackie attempting to fight back against Paulie to save his own life along with those within his family and those standing with him, leading to Jenny's death and the Darkness attempting to take control. Despite the story darting between Jackie's battle with Paulie and the Darkness attempting to take full control of Jackie, the game's pace remains fantastic. The Darkness wants to break Jackie's will so he can puppet him like a meat suit, but Jackie refuses, taking his own life after being forced by the Darkness to witness Jenny's death. Despite having all the power in the world to stop it, all the control was stripped from him from every facet of his life. To further the story's impact, the game uses the load times between areas to provide insight into the world, the characters, and Jackie's personality. You'll learn about Jackie's past, such as his first kiss with a hooker named Candy, a happy memory of him hanging out with his Uncle Paulie counting trains, or describing his current objective by complimenting the significance of the person or objective. It never feels forced. Instead, Jackie conveys his inner thoughts to the player in a believable way, as he's speaking to someone and not in that tutorial way like, hey, jump here, maybe I should figure this out, or something like that way, you know, a very condescending tone. Instead, it actually feels like a genuine person he's speaking to, who he knows is there, but he can't really convey it in the proper way. The voice actor gives an exceptional performance at giving us the inner turmoil of Jackie's facing, such as cold anger, pure violence, or even empathy. The antagonists are also extremely well written. Paulie Franchetti is a violent coward who demands control and respect. This is highlighted not only by his willingness to murder anyone in his way, including children, but also by the optional dialogue from his men, who simply work for him out of fear of retaliation or a possible reward, knowing that he's such a dweeb that he will do anything for people to like him, but the second he doesn't get what he wants, he'll throw a tantrum. Eddie Strode is the corrupt NYPD captain on Paulie's payroll. He's just as ruthless as Paulie, but a lot smarter. This is felt during the torture sequence where Eddie takes a drill to Jackie's head, having done this before and knows exactly what he needs to do in order to remain in control of everything. He even treats Paulie as just his personal pet, despite Paulie being the one who pays him. The cinematography of this scene alone is simply just brutal and unnerving, and something I would never see in a modern AAA game to this day, given how much things have been censored, with exceptional animations that highlight a profound level of dedication to facial features, but also the brutal violence conveyed in this scene. Where the game goes into full horror is the nightmare world called the Otherworld, as Jackie is transported into the mind of the darkness after dying multiple times in the game. Here a constant battle resembling World War I fights between Germans and British soldiers are waged. Jackie finds his great-grandfather and learns that he's the one who cursed his family, letting the darkness into their life and taking control of the firstborn male who turns 21 within the family. Those who died end up here in this ever-waking nightmare fighting against horrible nightmares. The game's writers somehow were able to balance both the mob narrative and the darkness story well enough. Nothing overshadows the other and both play off one another. Jackie's desire for revenge is never overshadowed and keeps the primary objective throughout the entire game regardless of what's happening in front of you. This constant battle for control complements Jackie's personal adventure. The darkness craves violence, and it doesn't help that Jackie leaves a trail of bodies as the god encourages him to kill more. With the final level of the game, Jackie allows the darkness to take more control of him as he brutally murders what remains of Paulie's men because he simply wants them to suffer for what they did to Jenny. The ending is very somber and complements the darkness personality. I won't spoil it, but having experienced this now as opposed to the first time I played, this ending is very different. The first time I experienced this ending, I thought it was a very boring and unsatisfying ending, but now that I experience it now with a lot more wisdom nowadays, I am 35, it's pretty sadistic and on par with the darkness as a personality, giving Jackie a small bit of hope before ripping it away from him, another way to try and break him down until the sequel, which we find out that Jackie has completely stopped using the darkness until he's forced to do so. Not sure if I'll talk about that game as I did 100% that as well, but we'll have to see. At its core, the darkness is a first-person shooter. Jackie can use an array of weapons with a spray and pray arcade mentality. You can slightly hold down the sights for certain guns, but the game relies heavily on auto-aim function, with Jackie locking onto an enemy nearby, and if you're close enough you can perform a brutal execution. In fact, you can even see the face of the enemy right before you kill them. This is absolutely insane for a game that came out in 2007. This attack is an instant kill and will act on as long as you have at least one bullet on your gun and you're close enough. I love how the game swaps on different pistols depending on what Jackie picks up, showcasing that he'll use whatever is available and focus less on reloading and more on changing guns. It's a small detail and I doubt anyone would have cared to notice. They could have just used the same pistol model, but that small change gives more individualism to the characters you kill. Not everyone's going to use the same weapon, especially pistols, and they virtually operate all the same. The weapons are unbalanced though, as shotguns are just straight up garbage to the bullets going everywhere except right in front of you. I can't understand it makes no sense, but pistols and shotguns are definitely the more ideal option because of their high accuracy and damage. The darkness is where things start to get interesting. Jackie starts with one power, but the game highlights all the powers right at the beginning of the game when you get the ability to use the darkness, with the player gain access to the creeping dark first, which allows you to send the demon tentacle crawl around the environment and sneakily attack other enemies. Eventually, you'll gain access to the demon arm for fatal quick attacks and moving heavy objects, darkness guns that have a force blast and a Gatling gun, and finally the black hole that sucks everything up. You can't just spam these attacks, that each one requires a certain amount of energy, and the darkness can recharge itself by going into dark places or by consuming a heart. You're going to eat a lot of these hearts with every 50 increasing overall abilities. I do like that the two tentacles tend to fight each other another for which can eat the heart, but don't be fooled, only the right one gets any of the hearts. It's kind of sad. Since the darkness cannot use its powers in the light, you're going to spend a lot of time in the beginning of the game knocking them out, especially since the darkness is paramount to recovering your health. I love the details in the tentacles with the glowing hue showing which power is active and how much charge is left, and the demons drawing their energy from the darkness in order to recharge. This means knocking out the lights is the best option in order to ensure victory, and while this is much easier once you get the demon arm, you'll spend a large amount of time in chapter 1 knocking out lights with your guns, and unfortunately chapter 1 is the longest chapter, and it's only in chapter 2 when you gain access to more abilities, especially the demon arm, which allows you to instantly break these lights without having to aim. The last power is the ability to summon Darklings. These creatures come in 4 variants: Berserkers for close range attacks, Gunner for long range, Kamikaze for blowing things up, and Light Killer for destroying light sources. You can summon these through portals on the ground, and they don't have the best AI. Mostly they serve as cannon fodder for combat and used primarily for puzzles such as opening gates. However, I love their twisted dialogue. Since these things are supposed to be representations of Jackie's deepest thoughts, that makes them even more entertaining because these are all things that Jackie has thought about throughout his time that he's been alive. It's pretty sick. Jackie himself is meant to be a glass cannon who blows through enemy ranks. This means no cover shooting and barely any aiming, which can lead to issues with the game's difficulty as it shifts dramatically. You can easily be killed by a couple of shots sometimes, and other times you can take automatic fire like it's nothing. I felt like if they had just one default difficulty, it would have been ideal. It just felt very confusing. I played both on easy and hard mode, and both times I barely noticed a difference. Maybe there was, I guess enemies were more accurate, but either way, it didn't really make much of a difference to me. The gameplay isn't the best and it feels dated, but it functions well enough. It's simple and effective, especially considering they needed to balance a god fighting humans. Seeing the darkness cut loose and how much power it does have by lore accuracy would have probably been an extreme challenge. I just wish I didn't have to smash so many lights all the time. The game features a large number of collectibles, which are very annoying. There are over 100 and they're all chapter specific. Missing even one requires you to replay the entire chapter from the beginning. Additionally, death before a checkpoint necessitates you recollecting those same items, which can be very annoying. Although collecting these items unlocked rewards like concept art and phone calls, it is considered one of the most annoying parts of the entire game, especially since there's no mid-chapter checkpoint selection or even fast travel. Instead, you'll spend a lot of time in the subway station. There are 2 stations and you'll travel between the 2 to get to the 4 overworlds within the key map. The other worlds only have key linear sections. Expect a lot of walking, and Jackie doesn't have the fastest gait, so getting lost can lead to a lot of annoying backtracking. Thankfully, those loading screens are entertaining, which is something I thought I would never say in my entire time of playing games. They actually really nailed the loading times in this entire game. Bringing it all together is the exceptional musical design. It's so subtle, but the composer did an outstanding job of combining high-octane combat, somber moments, and even military might. The tapestry of musical scores here is truly shocking. It's something you would expect from a Batman or Spider-Man game, not a niche series like this. Trust me when I say when you hear Jenny's soundtrack, it's one of the most prolific soundtracks in the entire game. It's calm, it's soothing, it just breeds that level of just innocence that I can't really convey correctly into words. You have to hear it for yourself, but it's pretty beautiful and I think it's extremely underrated. I've always stated that graphics are on a timer, but style is forever, and The Darkness has incredible style. The dark noir atmosphere is exceptional and holds up despite being over 10 years old. The violence and gore put most modern AAA M-rated games to shame. Yes, I'm talking to you, Dragon Age the Veilguard. As someone who was born and raised in New York, the developers did an exceptional job designing the city from the graffiti, dirty subways, and many other aspects. It's like playing a living time capsule. When I replayed this game, I was like, yeah, I remembered when subways used to look like this. The developers went even further with the game's intricate details. In one scene, you could see 2 cops kissing in the Turkish baths in the background. This would likely be missed by many players, but it adds so much realism for these 2 seconds that you see this. These 2 cops, despite being dirty, are shown to be in a relationship, unaware that a mafia hitman with the power of a deity is about to murder them and eat their hearts. Literally. So many of these tiny details add a wealth of realism to the game, such as violent homeless people using knives instead of guns, or people on the street talking about random things like flying cars or having sex with a moose. Another really cool detail that I just found out is that the darkness won't eat the hearts of innocent people. If you just kill random NPCs, you can't consume their hearts, but if you kill the gangbangers, the corrupt cops, and all the evil people you fight, they will consume their hearts, showing that the darkness either can't consume the heart of innocence or has no desire to. And I'm not sure if this is true in the source material, seeing that this game and the source material differ, especially with Jackie's personality, but I just thought that, hey, they actually thought about this. If you just killed random people, you can't just take their hearts. It has to be people who are violent or evil in this case. Random encounters players will often miss are littered everywhere in this game. For example, there is a thing with an old man in the subway that just sounds crazy. He's talking about trenches, death, and many other insane things that make absolutely no sense. Something those who grew up in New York and have experienced the subway system know about because of the colorful people that you often encounter down there. However, as you play through the game and you get to chapter 2 with the other world, you realize this guy is somehow connected to the darkness. He's able to see what's happening there, and everything he stayed in is exactly what's happening in that other reality, showing that there is a lot more things going on here that you don't know about. This violent place also features makeshift soldiers patched together because the darkness won't let them die. It even features a side mission where you bring a profound item to one of the soldiers to his love to highlight the bridge between the two worlds, even featuring the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse as nothing more than pawns to the darkness, such as Pestilence being the witch doctor who overlooks the battlefield, Famine being a starving horse with so much food that it will never be satisfied, Death being the protector of the darkness guns meant to control the darkness and can only be seen by someone who has its power, and War being a literal giant cannon and the only thing that can break into the castle where the darkness is held. Even the German soldiers who fight on the darkness behalf can only be killed by their hearts getting consumed by the darkness, showing they're just as much as a victim here as the British soldiers fighting them. The developers did an exceptional job with the visual design, the writing, and the combination of gameplay and music that highlights their extraordinary effort to create something truly special here. It may be a short experience, only around 2 to 4 hours if you speedrun through the campaign, 7 hours if you decide to do everything else, but the game quickly immerses you in the characters, bonds, and horrors, even if you're unfamiliar with the Darkness comic series like I was. This is my first exposure to this series, and it was absolutely brilliant. It is an exceptional game, and again, I can't believe this game came out almost 2 decades ago. Now, technically, there is a multiplayer feature to this, and it's terrible and unplayable, meaning that if you plan to 100% this game nowadays on the Xbox, it's impossible. It can't be done. I did it back in the day, and even then it was such a drag to do. You had to win a minimum of 250 matches, and seeing that the game is online only, there's no way for you to have a second controller and do this offline. So I'm not really sure why I know why they put into the game to pad out the experience, because the overall single player campaign is only at 7 hours max. But even so, like, they should have had an offline mode. I guess they didn't think that far ahead. So right now, if you plan to get this game, maybe get it on the PlayStation. I'm not sure if the multiplayer features work there. Regardless, it's just a overall terrible experience. Just think like GoldenEye, but somehow worse. Bare bone maps, the ability to transform into Darklings for some reason. It's just an overall terrible experience. I'm glad I did this because I'm one of the 2% of people who actually got the 250 wins. So yeah, pain. Expect that. The Darkness is a rare game that surpasses expectations despite its major flaws. The overall experience leaves you wanting more, and although the sequel shifts from the dark realistic visuals to a cel-shaded look with greater focus on the supernatural than the original game, which offers a unique satisfying experience that mixes together mob thriller and eldritch horror, I think you could play this game as its own isolated experience and have a fantastic time. The dark gritty mob thriller combined with a cursed bloodline involving an ancient god sounds like something that would never mix, but somehow it does here in an exceptional way. If you want to play the sequel, just be prepared for a major cliffhanger.
Well, you gonna blow out the candles? Happy birthday, rat face. You're finally legal.